every one. Today, let's hook this little monkey together. Take a look at a very cute shape, a brown one, and here's a ginger one. Let's take a look at the two very beautiful colors. You can think of it as a little pendant. Hang it on the bag, on the key. The rooms and the cars are very nice. Next, let's hook this little monkey together. Let's hook the head first. Wrap the yarn around your fingers. Take it down and pinch the intersection. Lay the yarn with your left hand. Then stitch this place with your left hand. Crochet in. Wrap the yarn around and pull it over. Then crochet. Hook the yarn. Pull this little loop. This is a chain stitch. The first round. We need to hook 5 single crochets in the magic ring. Let's hook. Crochet down the thread. Then pull over. Then through the 2 loops. Crochet around the thread. Put the 2 loops together. The first single crochet is hooked. Mark the stitches. Take a look at the stitches. It's a V-shaped shape like this. Now we move on to the second stitch. Thread the stitch, then crochet the thread and pull it over. Then through 2 loops. The second stitch is done. Then the third stitch. Fourth stitch. Then the 5th stitch. The first round is to hook a total of 5 single crochets. The single crochet is represented by the letter X. Then pull this thread tail tightly. Well, the first round is done. Now we move on to the second round. For the second round, we need to hook 5 increases. What about increasing with the letter symbol V? First of all, we threaded the crochet through the first stitch of the mark. Hook the first stitch. Let's take a look. Just cross the 2 lines horizontally. Part of the thread end of the stitch is hooked horizontally on it. Hook the first single crochet first. Mark it well. And then I'm going to thread the stitch through the first stitch. Then hook a single crochet again. This is an increase. 1 increase is equal to 2 single crochets in each stitch. So next, the second increase. Thread the crochet through the second stitch. 2 single crochets on the hook, the first stitch, and then another stitch. The second increase is done. Then we hooked all the 3 increases at the back. What about after the second round is hooked? It will become 10 single crochets. The increase is represented by the letter for V. The second round is to hook 5 V. So let's take a look. The second round is done. We used a stitching method of a spiral hook. After each round is hooked, there is no need to connect it. Then the third round, 1 single crochet and 1 increase is a group. Repeat the hook 5 times. The first stitch. Then mark it well. Thread the crochet inside the second stitch. Hook an increase. That is, hook to single crochets. Check a V. 1 single crochet and 1 increase. It's a combination. This round is hooked 5 times in total. There is a single crochet in the third stitch. Then hook 2 stitches in the fourth stitch. It was done the second time. According to this method, hook all the next 3 times. After the third round, there are 15 single crochets. Every round, it is equivalent to adding 5 stitches. And we learn to look at this crochet diagram. We can see the diagram later. Hook a small part alone. The third round is complete. Now we go on for the fourth round. 2 single crochets and 1 increase is a group. Repeat the hook 5 times. Let's hook. A single crochet is hooked inside the first stitch. Mark it well. Then an increase is hooked inside the second stitch. There is an increase hooked inside the third stitch. Hook a V. 2 single crochets and 1 increase. It's a combination. This round is hooked 5 times in total. It was done the second time. Hook all the last 3 times in this way. What about after the fourth round is hooked? We become 20 single crochets. We follow this method. Just hook this fourth round well. And then look at the diagrams. Hooked all the fifth and sixth rounds behind. And I typed the diagram up on the screen. All right, the sixth round turned into 30 single crochets. Then let's do the seventh round. The seventh round. But we're going to plug in the white yarn. The seventh round looks at the diagram to hook. What about the 7 stitches in front of the seventh round? We still use this brown yarn to hook. Mark the first stitch. Second stitch, mainly to show you how to change the color. Third stitch, fourth stitch, fifth stitch, 6 stitches. After that, pay attention to it. When we change colors, it's all in the last color. This place for the last stitch. Change color in advance. Thread the crochet at the position of the 7th stitch in brown. Don't finish the stitches yet. So this is where we plug in the white yarn. Just hook the white yarn. Then parallel the 2 loops with white yarn. Then 7 stitches brown yarn is hooked. And it also successfully brought this white yarn in. Next, hook 2 stitches with white yarn. Let's hook. Hook the first stitch first. Take the white tail and the brown tail. Press together at the back and hook up. After the first stitch is done. As for the second stitch, we changed it to brown yarn again. Hook the yarn and pull it over. Don't finish the stitches yet. Directly change to brown yarn and combine the stitches. In the back, we used brown yarn to hook 3 stitches. 2 stitches of white hook. Next, hook 3 stitches with brown yarn. First stitch, second stitch. Then the third stitch is the last stitch. We were going to substitute white. Let's take a look. Thread the crochet in and hook the yarn and pull it over. Change to white yarn and merge the stitches. Okay, 3 stitches of brown yarn are done. Next, hook 2 stitches of white yarn. First stitch. Then the second stitch is the last stitch. Just use this brown yarn to merge the stitches. Like this, the yarn back and forth. Okay. Then use brown yarn to hook 16 single crochets. Everyone follow me to hook. Put the white yarn aside. Just leave it alone. Hook 16 single crochets with brown yarn. Mainly to show you how to change the color. Remember when you changed the color? It's all this one with the last stitch in the previous color. And stitch this place to lift. Just change the color before. This is our hook method for the 7th round. You've brought that white lined yarn. That's the eye part of the little monkey. You need to change the color like this for the next few consecutive rounds. Let's take a look. We're done on round 7. Now we're going to round 8. Follow the diagram to hook. First hook the 6 single crochets with brown yarn. Mark after the first stitch is hooked. Second stitch, third stitch. Fourth stitch. The fourth stitch. Our white yarn is a little farther away now, and we're going to take the white string forward like this. Just press it on top of this brown line. Press it like this. Continue to hook the part of the fifth stitch. Pull the white yarn like this. Then the sixth stitch. The fifth stitch is the last stitch. We have to change the color in advance. Now parallel this white yarn. Let's take the white yarn. Pull it like this from behind, just where our fourth stitch is. Brought it ahead of time. Then we're going to use the white yarn to hook for more stitches. Let's hook. Hook this brown thread horizontally on one side. First stitch. Second stitch. Third stitch. Then, when taking the fourth stitch, we need to change the color in advance. The brown thread is only hooked at this place. Let's take a look. What about after pulling the thread over? Don't finish the stitches. Just change it to this white yarn. Let's hook it with 4 more stitches. That's the eye part. First stitch. Second stitch. Third stitch. Then on the fourth stitch, change it to this brown thread. Okay, what's next? Let's use brown yarn again. Just hook 15 single crochets in a row. Everyone follow me. Our 8th round. 1 single crochet in each stitch. Finally, 30 single crochets. We're done on the 8th round. Now we go on to the 9th round. The 9 to 11 rounds are all the same. Let's hook the part for round 9. Round 9. To start, let's hook 6 stitches of brown yarn. Let's hook. First stitch. After hooking, mark it. Second stitch. Third stitch. Fourth stitch. Fifth stitch. Then bring the white yarn forward. Then we hook the 5th stitch. And then we do the 6th stitch. The 6th stitch needs to be changed color. Pull the yarn over and change it to white. White. We have a total of 9 stitches this time. Let's hook the first stitch. Second stitch. Third stitch. Fourth stitch. Fifth stitch. Sixth stitch. Seventh stitch. What about the position of the 8th stitch and then the 9th stitch? Let's change the color and replace it with brown yarn. What's next? We'll make 15 more stitches with brown yarn. That's it. This round is still 30 single crochets. Follow me. Hook this 9th round. After the round 9, we're going to hook this up for rounds 10 and 11. The hook method for round 9 is exactly the same. You're following me until round 11. So let's take a look. And we got to round 11. Next, we continue to hook the 12th round. As for the 12th round, You need to change the color and reduce the stitches at the same time. We first use brown yarn to hook for single crochets. The first stitch is still marked. Then the second stitch. Third stitch. Then the fourth stitch. We are at this position of the fourth stitch. You can bring this white yarn forward. Next, we hook a decrease. Please pay attention to the hook method of decreasing. We need to put stitches 5 and 6 reduced to 1 stitch. First through the front loop of the 5th stitch. Then through the front loop of stitches 6 again. Hook the yarn. Go through both loops at the same time, because the bottom part of us is the white yarn. So, we parallel these 2 loops with white yarn. Okay, for single crochets and 1 decrease are hooked. Next, we use white yarn to hook for more single crochets. A decrease. Let's hook. It's time to change the color. A single crochet. 2 single crochets. 3 single crochets. 4 single crochets. Then hook a decrease. Let's take a look again. Pick up a front loop of stitches. Then pick up a front loop of stitches. Crochet the yarn and pull it over. Then parallel the stitches. That's it. Next, hook 3 single crochets with white yarn. First stitch, second stitch. Then when the third stitch is made, change it to brown yarn. Next, we use a brown yarn to hook. Hook a single crochet first, then a decrease. Pick up a stitch of the front loop, then pick up the front loop of the stitch. Crochet the yarn and pull it over. Then parallel the stitches. Next are 4 single crochets and 1 increase. Repeat the hook twice. Everyone follow me to hook. So let's take a look. After the hook, turn into 25 stitches. Now we're going to go on round 13. For round 13, we followed 3 single crochets and 1 decreased. Repeat hook 5 times. First hook 3 single crochets. Mark the first stitch. Second stitch. Then the third stitch. Then 1 decreases. Decreases are represented by letters for a. The next thing is hooked with this brown yarn. Second time 3 single crochets. A decrease. Third time 3 single crochets. Every subsequent round is hooked with this brown yarn. We don't need this white yarn anymore. We can directly cut the white yarn. You can put the white yarn in this place. Pull it like this. Cut directly. Later, we'll be in this one. Fill it with PP cotton, so don't worry about the fiber. We follow this rule. Just hook this 13th round well. Next, look at the diagram. Hooked all the 14th and 15th rounds behind. I put the diagram on the screen. Take a look after we hook on round 15. Put PP cotton in it and fill it up. This is the head. And then round 16. We hook 5 decreases. Let's hook. The first decrease. Mark it well. Second. Third. Fourth. 5th. Okay, after the hook is done, lengthen the end of the yarn. Cut directly. We put this place with a suture stitch. Lock the stitches for hem. Let's take a look at the remaining 5 stitches. Pick up the front loop of each stitch. Then tighten. And you run the tweed through the rest of it. Cut the long part directly. Let's take a look. The head of our little monkey is done. So we're going to hook off the mouth. We hooked with a white yarn. This stitch starting method is different from before. Make a loop like this first. Then the crochet goes in and tightens the yarn. Let's hook 9 chain stitches. Just a stitch. We continue to hook the second stitch below. 3rd stitch, 4th stitch, 5th stitch, stitch 6, 7th stitch, 8th stitch, stitch 9. After 9 stitches, we hook backwards. Thread the crochet into the 8th stitch. We started to hook single crochets. Thread the crochet into the 8th chain stitch. Hook the yarn. Pull over and hook a single crochet. Mark it well. We first hooked 7 single crochets in a row. 2nd stitch, 3rd stitch, 4th stitch, 5th stitch, 6th stitch, 7th stitch. Good. Next, we threaded crochet into the 1st stitch. Hook a W. That is to say, hook 3 single crochets in this stitch. This stitch is represented by the letter symbol W. 2nd stitch. The 3rd stitch. Okay, what about after the hook is done? So we turned around. We're going to hook this side with 6 single crochets. There is a stitch hooked inside the 2nd stitch. Then a stitch is hooked inside the 3rd stitch. There is a stitch hooked inside the 4th stitch. There is a stitch hooked inside the 5th stitch. There is a stitch hooked inside the 6th stitch. There is a stitch hooked inside the 7th stitch. What's next? The one we hooked backwards at the beginning. Thread crochet into the 8th stitch. Hook another increase. We're done with the first round. There are 18 single crochets in total. Then we're going to hook the second round. Just follow the diagram to hook. A stitch is hooked inside the 1st stitch. Mark the 1st stitch. Hook another single crochet. An increase is done. Next, hook 6 single crochets 6x. 1st stitch, 2nd stitch, 3rd stitch, 4th stitch, 5th stitch, 6th stitch is good. After the hook is done, next we hook an increase. Just hook it in these 3 stitches. Hook an increase first. Then a single crochet. Then next, another increase. Next, we hook the corresponding 6 single crochets. So after the hook is done, there are still 2 stitches left. We hooked 1 increase and 1 single crochet. Then hook a single crochet. After the second round is hooked, it becomes 22 single crochets. Then the third and fourth rounds, 1 single crochet in each stitch. Everyone follow me. Hook this third and fourth rounds for it. We'll hook him on the fourth round. The third round and the fourth round all had 22 stitches. Then after the hook is done, lengthen the line. Leave a long tail. Then we're going to connect this place. And this is actually the first stitch. Skip it and thread the needle from the position of the second stitch. How about this connection? We form a new eye on this first stitch, and then we found the last single crochet. After the stitch is picked, the back loop of the stitch is connected to the loop below. Go through like this. So it's connected. Let's take a look. Our mouth is done. Okay, what's next? This leg part of the little monkey. Let's hook it together. The leg part of the little monkey. Let's start the stitches. Wrap the yarn around your fingers. Take it off and put the yarn on with your left hand. Crochet in. Hook the thread over and pull a chain stitch first. So we're going to thread crochet through the loop. First hook out 7 single crochets. Mark the first stitch. Second stitch. After hooking these 7 stitches, tighten this thread tail. And then we thread crochet into the first stitch. Connect it. Thread the crochet in. Then the crochet hooks the yarn and pulls it over, straight to the back loop. Tighten. The first round is done. It is different from the previous hook method on the head. Let's hook a chain stitch first. And you flip it like this. Hook back. Still hooked with 7 single crochets. Let's hook. First stitch. Mark it well. Second stitch. Third stitch. Fourth stitch. Fifth stitch. Stitch 6. The 7th stitch is hooked. In the same way, let's connect it. Okay, and then we hooked a chain stitch. Keep flipping stitches. Hook the third round. Still hook these 7 single crochets. Everyone follow me to hook. Mark the first stitch. Okay, what about after the hook is done? We connect. A slip stitch. The third round is complete. Then hook a chain stitch. Keep flipping stitches. First hook the white yarn with 4 stitches. First stitch. second stitch, third stitch. Then the fourth stitch pulls the thread over. Let's change to this brown yarn. So what about this fourth round? We can just hook these 4 stitches. Only hook these 4 stitches. Hook the yarn. Then pull it over like this. End of yarn pressed. So the color change is successful. Next, hook a chain stitch. Flip over. We hook the 5th round. We can just hook these 4 stitches. Hook for single crochets. Rounds 4 and 5 are a bit more specific. Just hook for stitches. Third stitch. Then the 4th stitch. We're done with the 5th line. Then the next hook is the 6th round. Let's start with the next stitch. Count as the first stitch of the 6th round. After that, our white yarn will not be used. You can cut it directly. Let me put the end of this yarn. Hide it all inside. Next, we continue to hook the 6th round. Start with this stitch. We counted the first stitches of the 6th round. Mark this stitch. And then round 6 to 14. 1 single crochet in each stitch. Just hook these 7 single crochets. So let's start on round 6. There is no need to flip to hook. We'll just hook it normally. Let's take a look. After the hook is done, there is no need to flip it again. We just hooked it forward. Just turn the round and hook up. And you don't need to hook slip stitches anymore. Just hook the spiral stitch directly. Hook until round 14. Everybody, follow me. Hook the legs. We can hook both legs well. What about the white yarn? After the hook is done, it looks like this. Our leg is a little special. So we're going to move on to the diagrams. Check the other parts. So this is the 2 arm section. Just hook the normal arm. It's not as complicated as the legs. A normal spiral hook will do. This is what it looks like after the 2 arms are hooked. It's body parts. Let's take a look. It is also a method of magic ring. There is also this yarn changing part at the back. Just follow the diagram to hook. After the hook is done, put PP cotton in it and fill it up. And then we have 2 ears. Let's take a look. The ear part also needs to be changed color. And finally, there's a tail. Take a look at the 5 stitches. Then just hook 15 rounds. Keep going up. Then what about next? So just hook the diagram. Okay, what about after it's all hooked? We put this eye on this head. And what about the mouth part? Install it. What about the eyes? We installed it on this white one. This part of the 3rd round is fine. Just install it for him like this. Then install this eye accordingly. What about after the eyes are installed? So we sew the mouth underneath the eyes. Just sew it in this position. Follow this contour of this mouth, so around like this. Finally, leave a small opening. Then put PP cotton in it. Let's take a look at the suturing process. All right. What about after we sew this mouth all together? We right on top of this big mouth. Sketch his nose and the small mouth part. Look at the process. Let's sketch the nose part first. Thread the needle directly like this. Just pull it sideways like this. Repeat several times. And what happens next? Let's sketch the little mouth part again. Let's take a look at the process. Thread the needle through at this position on the lower side. From here, give him this slash line first. Then pull down again. Sketch out this arc of this semi-round. Thread the needle at this position in the middle first. Pass to the right. Then pull back. What about this thread? Then at the end of this line, put another slash of this line. Let's take a look. And then what happens is, you run the string through the rest. That's it. Take a look at this little mouth and hook it. Cut the long part directly. What's next? Let's put 2 more ears. Just sew it symmetrically like this. The one on the left, and then the one on the right. Sewed symmetrically like this. Everybody follow me. I'm going to sew both ears up. Okay, what about after we sew this ear? We sewed the body and the head together. Let's take a look. When sewing the white part of this body part, it should correspond to the white part of the head like this. Just sew it up like this. We are sewing it on the second round of the head. Everyone followed me to sew. No difficulty. Just fix it in this position. All right, we sew this head and body accordingly. And then what happens is, you take the 2 arms, sewed on the left and right sides of this body. Just stitch the flat seams on the left and right sides. Then put the 2 legs like this, sewed on the left and right sides of this white line. sew it up like this. And then at the back, we sew on the tail. Sew it like this. So everybody sews all three together. So let's take a look. We sew two arms to the left and right sides of the body. Our cute little monkey is done. Okay, thank you for watching. See you in the next tutorial.